Ellie is the Director of Operations there. Ellie has very kindly agreed to be recorded, so that's why the recording button is on, but Jonas will mute everyone while Ellie's talking. And you can continue putting your topics into the chat box while she's talking. But I'm so delighted that you've agreed to come and talk to us today, and I'm sure people will find, some people actually have seen you on screen before, so I think they're really thrilled to be able to meet you in person. So Ellie, go ahead.
Mute. Oh, found the unmute button. Hello, so we are TakeOff. We are based in Kent, which is southeast England, and we started as a mental health forum in '98. I was not with TakeOff back then, and we started as mental health forum, which was basically to gather service user voices who had used psychiatric hospitals, using the community mental health teams, getting benefits and gathering those voices to help change the services. Since then, our boss, our CEO, Mark Kilby, he started to see that there was such a lack of support and options for people after they've come out of hospital, or people with mental health problems who are on benefits but they actually want to work. So he travelled around the UK and found that there was nothing that he could see that was actually service user led. So although something might say, yes, we talk to our service users to shape the services, it wasn't actually happening. It was all run by managers, it was run by psychiatrists, by GPs, not at all peer-led. So he came back down to Canterbury and started to raise funding to actually run groups ourselves. And it started off with peer support brokerage. So people in the UK would be given a pot of money to basically spend on whatever they thought would help their own mental health. So we would have conversations with people to try and put that in the right direction instead of spending it on, I don't know, a new car or something. Not that it was ever that high funding, but asking them when you were last happy, when you last felt comfortable, what did you have in place? And that might be, oh, I used to do loads of fishing. So we'd help them find some local place where they could go fishing, an angling society or something where they could meet other people with a hobby. And it doesn't have to be mental health related. They could say, oh, I used to have a pet, I used to have a dog. And we'd be like, okay, so what could you do at the moment which you're comfortable with, you know, and your stability? Maybe start with a guinea pig or something that would help them just feel a little bit more normal, in quotes. So that's how we all started, and we've just expanded incredibly in the last few years, and we've expanded all of this support over East Kent. So we're in places of really high deprivation, including Dover and Thanet, and supporting people just through whatever activities that they'd actually like to do. So we always ask people in the community what they want. We'll never start anything because we think it's a good idea. We always ask people what the community is lacking, and things like depression, anxiety groups and diagnosis specific groups, perhaps BPD. We have started a fair few talking groups like that, but also activities. So if someone hates art and has never been interested in art, we'd still encourage them to try something new and just to meet people and to be able to just talk while they're doing an activity. So we've got art groups and cooking groups, just things that help you get out of your comfort zone a little bit and start to get back to that bit of normality. So now we've got groups all over East Kent, and recently during the pandemic, we've received a bit of funding which has helped us expand to West Kent as well, which is absolutely amazing. We have comments all the time saying, I wish this was in my area, or I wish I'd found this sooner. But as we're talking to people, and I've worked at TakeOff for over 6 years, the conversations have been about falling through the gap. Now this is between statutory services like community mental health teams and the psychiatric hospitals, and then the GPs and IAP services. So we're finding that so many people are coming to us because they're too ill for the IAP services, or for counselling that the GPs can organise, and they're not ill enough, apparently, for the statutory services. So we're seeing a lot of people who are going for an assessment with the community mental health teams, who are suicidal, self-harming, and clearly unwell, but still not able to be supported by the community mental health teams. So that is our main focus as a charity. We want to support these people, so we're trying to support them through our peer support groups. During the pandemic, this has all been online and through one-to-one support. So obviously, if we were at the conference in person, the pandemic was not happening, this would be a different conversation. But as the pandemic has happened, we've had to change our whole service provision. We did that within a week and were actually one of the first organisations to do so. And we've changed it all to online and phone support. Our peer workers like Tamsin, who's there somewhere, has been amazing with this, and still she's finding talking to people on the phone that they aren't getting the support they need. And of course, no group therapies or anything are happening at the moment. So that's been really difficult to hear people talking about how they're still suicidal and not getting any help. The other thing is that hospitals are being closed left, right and centre. Last year here in Canterbury, 2 wards were closed. Basically half the hospital was closed. In theory, that the community support would be increased, that the money that was raised by selling the hospital would actually go towards improving the community support, but we have seen no change in that. So again, as a charity, it seems to lie with us to pick up the pieces, to be seeing those people who are more unwell. We have got ready-made social networks. We've got the support, trying to build resilience. Again, asking people what they actually want instead of just telling them what would be good for them, has impacted people so well that, they keep coming through the door. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's just by asking people what they actually want. And I'm guessing, well, through conversations, of course, with Rayya, that's what solution focus really is. Finding the solution through asking people what they actually need. We are fully aware that we're not the only answer. We, as peer support workers, know from our own experience what is helpful, but everyone's different. So we know that everyone goes on a different journey. And that is, different things are important to different people. So half of it is just, seeing what people actually want themselves, trying to find gaps in the community to, hopefully, fill some of those gaps. But we know that we're not psychiatrists, we're not occupational therapists. We're just using our own experiences to try and advise people on what they can do in that moment. And it might be that someone's saying, I'm self-harming, so we'd suggest, if we've had experience with self-harming, what we did to distract in that moment. And it comes down to that. We can't put people under the same umbrella saying, oh, this will help you, go to this therapy. It might not. It's all person-centered. We're just trying to go with what communities need. And part of our expansion into West Kent at the moment, we're just talking to the communities, getting the referrals and asking them, what do you guys actually want? Interesting thing has been talking to people on the phone because they can't get onto Zoom. All of our groups are on Zoom. So talking to people one-to-one and trying to just fit with what people actually want. Yeah. So I welcome questions because I will just blabber on.
If we have about a minute more, if anyone's got a quick question.
Me to sing. No, if not, everyone's muted anyway, so I'm not sure.
Not so much of a question, but more of a thank you for sharing that, and that is absolutely incredible. And you do need to kind of roll out to the whole of the UK, in my opinion.
We'll try, yeah. I mean, we're still unique. Even the statutory services say they have peer workers, but they're all managed by people without mental health problems, so they're not even supported properly. If you've got someone who's talking about committing suicide and you then go home worrying and cycling about that, you know, you need that support of peers around you so you can actually say, oh, I feel like crap, I need to talk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about having that whole system of peer workers all together so we can talk really openly about it. And we also know in ourselves when we're getting down, so we can just open up and say, I'm feeling like crap and need some time or whatever. So yeah, thank you. We've had a few questions actually from Rayya as well. Up in this, Edinburgh, someone came down to chat to us. So we are hoping to expand. It's just a case of doing it safely. And
can I ask maybe a tricky question? What actions are you most proud of that you've taken?
Keeping it peer-led, because that has been so difficult. So many people, and it comes from a good place in their heart, but so many people contact us, and students, because we've got 3 technically, but 2 main universities here in Canterbury, want to do placements and things with us. And unless you've got that lived experience, we can't say yes. And it's been tempting because people are passionate. But that has been one of the hardest things, is saying no to people. Working with the statutory services, we have to find the manager that's actually going to listen to us and try and make change. And that has taken years. And then you find that they then leave to go and work somewhere else. So that's another real challenge, is actually trying to work with other organisations who have the same passions as us.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I just say as well, just quickly, Ellie hasn't mentioned this, but TakeOff get referrals from statutory services, and they run a mental health crisis group. Which is
thanks, Rayya. Yeah, we run a crisis group which runs 52 weeks a year, and a few years ago that landed on New Year's Day and Christmas Day, and we still run it. You know, people still have no families to go to and still have crisis. So yeah, thanks for that reminder. It's one of our pioneering services, and also working directly in the psychiatric hospital. We go in there not at the moment, but we go in there every single week to talk to the patients to find out about their experiences, because we found a few years ago someone had been sexually assaulted in the hospital. Now that wouldn't have been found out unless one of our peer workers was up there directly talking with people, saying the staff aren't going to hear directly from us, you know, these are confidential conversations. That wouldn't have come up if we weren't in that hospital.
Thank you so much, Ellie. I'm quite aware of time. If you don't mind, we're going to move on to Elliot, sorry.